Chinese missiles filled with water instead of fuel. U.S. spies doubt China's ability to fight a war due to alleged corruption in its military, the agency has reported. U.S. intelligence believes the sacking of several high-ranking Chinese military figures before New Year was linked to widespread corruption in the People's Liberation Army, PLA, Bloomberg has reported, citing people familiar with the assessments. The problem is the most pressing within China's rocket force, in which major investments have been made in recent years, the agency said in an article on Saturday. It cited several examples of graft within the PLA, based on American assessments. Among other things, Bloomberg's sources mentioned Chinese missiles filled with water instead of fuel and waste fields of missile silos in western China, with faulty lids that won't allow the munitions to launch effectively. According to the sources, corruption inside the rocket force and the defense industrial base is so rampant that U.S. officials now consider Chinese President Xi Jinping to be less likely to contemplate major military action in the coming years than would otherwise have been the case. This shows that Xi Jinping has been left humiliated. The embarrassing U.S. intelligence reports come just a week after Xi Jinping unleashed a sweeping purge of Chinese generals over deep-rooted corruption in the military. The intelligence agents told Bloomberg that many Chinese missiles displayed as a sign of Beijing's power did not have any fuel inside. There are also vast fields of missile silos in western China with lids that do not function in a way that would allow the missiles to launch effectively. The reports are so devastating that U.S. officials now believe that Xi Jinping is unlikely to risk staging large-scale military operations anytime soon. Chinese wary of new rare blood type fined after forced organ harvesting. On January 6, according to mainland media, the paper, Cao Guoping, chief technician of the blood transfusion department at Taixing People's Hospital, discovered a rare blood type, P blood, in routine blood tests last year. Gene sequencing revealed a nucleotide sequence in the blood type that has not yet been discovered globally so far. It was claimed this blood type appears at a frequency of less than 1 in a million, with only a dozen or so cases of P blood recorded in China. But netizens expressed concern, will the person disappear tomorrow? Previously it would feel novel, now there are safety concerns. Such a rare blood type can only wish for blessings and self-protection. Now seeing the words rare feels scary. I'm reminded of the Hu Xinyu incident. This is trying to divert attention again? On October 14, 2022, high school student Hu Xinyu from Xi'an Middle School in Xi'an County, Shangrao City, Jiangxi Province, mysteriously disappeared from school. After 106 days of so-called investigation, local police claimed Hu Xinyu hanged himself. The authorities' conclusion was met with widespread doubts domestically and overseas. At the time, there were online rumors that Hu Xinyu had the rare Rhd negative blood type, colloquially known as panda blood, and was organ harvested after blood type matching. On August 30, 2022, Yangtze Evening News reported Nanjing Medical University-affiliated Taizhou People's Hospital discovered a globally rare blood type in a patient. Not only was the patient Rhd negative, but Rhc, Rhe, and Rhe were also negative, null. This blood type is called golden blood, with less than 50 known cases globally. That news also shot up to Weibo hot search trends at the time. At the time, a Jihu netizen pointed out, if someday some regions have some inexplicable hot search trends, like snowy mountains, fire clouds, blood types, testing machines, etc., or some poor souls have some unfortunate things happen, like some criminal case with oddly abundant comments setting the tone, etc., shooting up in hot search, it can basically be determined that some regions have even more disgraceful things occurring that cannot be made known, so they don't want people finding out. It's an acostomid tactic. The totalitarian CCP interferes in the elections of other countries everywhere. As Taiwan's general election approaches, the Chinese Communist Party's harassment of Taiwan continues unabated, with not only military aircraft and vessels, but consecutive appearances of drifting balloons over multiple days. The White House has called for no other countries or entities to interfere in this election. Additionally, Bangladesh, which will hold parliamentary elections on January 7th, has also criticized Beijing for interfering in its general election. Taiwan's presidential election is proceeding full steam ahead, with the itineraries of all three candidate pairings completely booked. The candidates are traversing streets and alleys, shaking hands with every voter they see in order not to miss a single vote. At the same time, the Chinese Communist Party's harassment of Taiwan continues unabated, sending at least 9 fighter jets, 4 naval vessels, and at least 6 drifting balloons across Taiwan's airspace. Su Tzu-yun, director of the Institute for National Defense and Security Research at Taiwan's National Defense University. These balloons can be called political weather balloons. The main reason is they do not pose much military threat, but they have a harassing intent because their maximum flight altitude is around 25,000 feet or 6,400 meters, which would affect flight paths and safety of small civilian aircraft. Wang Juntao, chairman of the overseas branch of the China Democratic Party, believes the CCP is trying to get Taiwan to elect a leader who supports unification, but that is basically impossible under current circumstances. The main purpose of its frequent actions now is still to disrupt Taiwan's elections. Wang Juntao, chairman of the overseas branch of the China Democratic Party, if Taiwan's election does not go well, then the mainland can say, "See, what's good about your election?" If Taiwan's election goes well, it will of course make mainlanders feel more heartbroken. We are all Chinese of the same ethnicity, not just Asians of the same ethnicity. So how can Taiwan elect leaders when we cannot? Disrupting Taiwan can reduce people's longing for Taiwan's democracy and increase the perceived legitimacy of its governance, as if it's the same. Yuan Hongbing, liberal legal scholar based in Australia. The CCP totalitarian regime at this time can be said to have mobilized all national power to attempt not to intervene, but to control Taiwan's election, to control the outcome of Taiwan's election. Its specific methods are nothing more than political and economic benefits and threats, comprehensive military threats, and then launching public opinion wars, information wars, and cognitive wars through its cyber army, creating internal contradictions in Taiwan and dividing Taiwanese society. On January 4th, U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby called on the CCP not to interfere in Taiwan's elections. Kirby said the U.S. supports Taiwan's democratic system and does not want any other country or entity to interfere in this election. Su Tzu-yun. Including at the Biden-Xi meeting in San Francisco earlier, Biden also warned Xi not to intervene in Taiwan's general election. So judging from this series of events, this presidential election is indeed the deepest attempt by the CCP to intervene. This systemic influence operation includes cognitive, economic coercion, and quasi-military missile maneuvers. So the White House has in effect also indirectly proven the CCP's intentions. Fury explodes online as Beijing declares nearly 1 in 3 Chinese now middle income. According to integrated mainland media reports, China Central Television recently aired a talk show themed How to Stabilize Employment and Increase Income in 2024. Host Bai Yansong connected via video link to Wang Yiming, Deputy Director of the China Center for International Economic Exchanges, asking, according to the National Bureau of Statistics standard of a monthly income exceeding 3,000 yuan to be considered middle income, China's middle income group has exceeded 400 million. But these people often do not feel they are middle income and are very resistant to the designation. How do you see this phenomenon? Wang Yiming responded, saying, "Our middle-income group has exceeded 400 million, but the majority have just crossed the threshold to be considered middle income." He said many people, although meeting the middle-income standard, still have to consider issues like education, healthcare, retirement, and savings, so this group still does not dare to consume. It is verified that back in June 2023, Li Shi, professor at Zhejiang University, had already proposed that in China, a monthly income of around 3,000 yuan can be regarded as reaching the standard for the middle income group. He claimed that in 2022, the size of China's middle-income group reached about 460 million, the world's largest middle-income group. Amid soaring unemployment and a sharp decline in general consumption power, Bai Yansong and Wang Yiming again mentioned this topic through Q&A, implicitly endorsing and defending this view, immediately triggering strong backlash from Chinese netizens. A netizen from Chongqing commented, "Let me tell you, a monthly income of 3,000 yuan means being destitute in society, not daring to treat others to meals, take time off, or get sick." Another Beijing netizen wrote, "An income of 3,000 yuan per month is pretty good if it solves food and shelter, do children's education, mortgages not require money. These experts are living in their own worlds and have become completely detached from ordinary people. These guys are out of touch with worldly affairs." Independent media person An Chengda also recently commented that this group of 400 million middle-income people actually cannot be considered middle class. In the cities they live in, if there is a mortgage, car loan, or children who need extracurricular classes, with any one of these expenditures, a monthly income of 3,000 yuan is not enough to survive. Notably, according to World Bank standards, the middle-income benchmark should be between 25,000 and 250,000 RMB. Yet in the 2018 Time Use Survey, published by China's National Bureau of Statistics in 2019, middle-income groups were defined as having a monthly income between 2,000 to 5,000 RMB. US-based Chinese current affairs commentator Chen Pokong told Radio Free Asia that even in China's second- and third-tier cities, a monthly income of 3,000 yuan is very low. He said, "This standard is extremely low. It cannot be considered a real middle-income standard at all. This is misleading, setting too large a range and too low a baseline for middle income just to make China look good." CCP cuts officials across China trying to save dying regime. Currently, over 10 provinces and cities in China are undergoing organizational streamlining, with some provinces and cities indicating they will reduce the number of leadership positions. Experts believe this is an action the CCP has no choice but to take in order to survive. As of January 5th, Beijing, Chongqing, Tianjin, Shanghai, Hebei, Hunan, Sichuan, and over 10 other provinces and cities have successively deployed and mobilized institutional reform work, with many places indicating they will wield the knife in cutting the number of departmental leadership positions. It is reported that in March last year, the CCP issued an institutional reform plan, requiring reforms at the central level to be completed by the end of last year and local-level reforms to be completed by the end of this year. Regarding this deployment, experts believe it is a survival move by the CCP. Li Yuanhua, scholar based in Australia, it also knows operating this massive bureaucratic system costs a lot of money. Before the cuts, some prefecture-level cities had 3, 5, or even over 10 deputy mayors. It has too many officials, now it has no money. It can't even afford to cook the books. It's already reached the point where cuts are inevitable. Li Yuanhua. The CCP messed around with lockdowns for 3 years during the pandemic, leaving both central and local governments with no money. And many governments are already bankrupt. This massive bureaucratic machine can no longer operate, or there is no more money to keep it running. According to the CCP's data, as of the end of last October, local government debt balances broke through 40 trillion RMB, with many local governments already bankrupt. Lai Jianping, former Beijing lawyer and Canada Alliance of Chinese Associations chairman, its so-called streamlining and reducing leadership positions currently has 2 main motives. First, its finances are extremely difficult right now. It wants to streamline personnel through precision governance so it can devote limited fiscal resources to its knives and hatchets, to public security organs, national security, and security agencies, maximizing maintenance of one-party dictatorship. With waves of shutdowns, layoffs, and unemployment rolling towards various places in China, local governments are recruiting network monitors and security guards with high salaries. Lai Jianping, Second is when there are too many leading cadres. Every decision may give rise to some different opinions and perspectives. Discussions in meetings, big and small, may need to be held in advance. This is detrimental to the efficient operation of this authoritarian regime. Without so many leading cadres, it can maximize absolute orders, one-man decisions, and make many major decisions, whether mobilizing police or otherwise, allowing its knives and hatchets to generate maximum effect. Li Jianping pointed out this also shows the CCP currently faces divine wrath and popular resentment, with the dictatorial regime at the critical juncture of life and death, so it wants to devote all power and decision-making to maximum stability maintenance.